Every once in a while in wrestling conversation, you come across a wrestler or two that if somebody were to say, describe that person, if somebody were to say, what's that person all about? What's that star all about? Where you kind of don't know where to start. I've always considered Chyna to be one of those, but as I've been dealing with the news of the day, I think the best way to describe Chyna is literally, and this is going to sound strange to some people, play her entrance music. The first four lines of her entrance music, and I think it just repeats over and over and over again, but the line basically says, don't treat me like a woman, don't treat me like a man, don't treat me like you know me, just treat me for who and what I am. I don't think you can sum up a superstar, a once-in-a-lifetime person in our world, being the wrestling world, obviously. I don't think you can... Sorry, guys, a lot of this is going to be off my head. I got the Doomy clipboard, and that's only because I've scratched some stuff down over the course of the day that I want to talk to you guys about. But this is obviously not one of those typical vids. So if I look like I'm staring off into space, or if I'm not as, animated as I usually am in videos, I didn't do the whole, it's your buddy, it's your pal, rah-de-rah-de-rah. It's not a time that's appropriate for that. But those lyrics really are a good sum up of Chyna, and somebody that I remember quite fondly in my time as a wrestling fan. I guess I should start off with how my day went off. You guys know I do the boring warehouse job that I do all day. I get up at about 6 a.m. to get at work let's be a little more realistic. I get up about 20 to 7 to get to work for 7. I woke up, and the very first thing I noticed on my phone after I turned the alarm off was a Facebook message from my buddy Bird, who you guys will remember from when I did the Walking Stuff and Dead Things series about The Walking Dead. Bird was my co-host on that. And basically it was two messages, side by side. One was a question, and one was, don't worry about it, I've got the answer. One said, hey, I heard something about Chyna passing away. Can you confirm this? And later on, after it, was a message already following that up that said, I got it confirmed, or never mind, I figured out that it's real, or whatever. And it was really, personally for me, not that this is about me, but it was a very strange thing that happens. It happens when wrestlers pass away. I know more people that aren't wrestling fans than are, so I booted up actual Facebook, not just Facebook on my phone, and I had another friend of mine from Toronto, and a cousin of mine, and a friend that I used to work with that now is a couple provinces away, and they all kind of said, hey, have you heard about this? And the first thing, and I hate to say this, the first thing I thought of was that it's fake. That somebody's playing another prank, like the videos that come along. John Cena got hit by a truck or something to that effect. Which, sidebar, those videos are horrible. So and so's been hit by a truck. John Cena's supposed to main event WrestleMania, but he got hit by a car. That shit's fucking horrible. And that shit needs to stop. Not only because it's distasteful, but because when something serious like this actually happens, none of us let it sink in at first, and that's really shitty. But I looked it up, and I went to various sites, various news things over the course of the day, and then of course I go to work, where the same sort of thing happens. I become the source, and it's a very bizarre feeling that you're a wrestling fan, you're branded as a wrestling fan. When people that aren't wrestling fans hear about stuff like this, it's only the bad stuff. I actually had somebody, I think it was back when Roddy Piper passed away, come to me at work and say, well, which one of them died now? Which is, on the one hand, I really want to get ticked, but on the other hand, it's like, look at what the media does with wrestling. Sorry, rambling, getting to my point, but eventually I did get it confirmed. I saw it on enough sites. WWE confirmed it. We'll get to that in a second. And you guys know, of course, that I am a big avid fan of the Taz podcast, the Taz live radio show that he does, and he did an opening bit about it. So we lost Chyna, and I had to say something. Now, something that somebody said to me on Twitter, and this happens every time somebody passes away that I feel the need to talk about. Immediately when I start talking about somebody that's passed away, somebody will come along and say something to the effect of, well, why are you talking about this person when you didn't give a shit about this person or this person or this person or this person? In the past 3 weeks, the entertainment industry has lost 5 people that I'm aware of. Now, there's obviously, I don't have ears and eyes out everywhere all the time, so if somebody else has passed away in the time that it takes me to film this, I am genuinely sorry. But we've lost Prince today as well. We've lost Doris. I can never remember her last name, and I'm genuinely sorry for that. But she played the mother, grandmother character on Everybody Loves Raymond. We lost Blackjack Mulligan, you know, predecessor to Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas. And we lost Balls Mahoney. Now, to anybody that wants to say, well, why would you do a video on Chyna and not on them? And it's very simply, it's that I have more to say. I didn't do a big spiel when Piper passed away or Dusty passed away or even Warrior passed away, because while I respect their place in the industry, there are other people out there that can speak more intelligently to those careers than I can. I wasn't a huge fan of Prince. And that's not a negative. That's not to say that he was bad. It's the quintessential not my cup of tea thing. I mean, I saw the woman that played Ray Romano's mother on Everybody Loves Raymond, but you know, you saw her in one role at one point for a very brief period of time. I don't know much about her. Blackjack Mulligan, again, it's one of those, yeah, obviously there's ancestry there. It touches on people that I'm a fan of nowadays, but I can't speak intelligently to his career. I've said to you guys many, many times that have talked to me about the indies, I am not really an indie guy. I don't skew very far from the WWE spectrum, so ECW is not, it's not that I don't respect it, and it's not that I don't respect its impact on the industry, but ECW is not something that I can speak to intelligently, and I don't think I would do Balls Mahoney any service by coming up here and doing a video like that. I think I can for Chyna, because I have a lot of good wrestling memories of Chyna. I have a lot of good moments. I have a lot of TV that I digested as a wrestling fan over the course of the Attitude Era. Had Chyna in it. Now, where do I begin to start talking about what Chyna's impact on the business? I remember Chyna when she very first came in, and she came in as Triple H's bodyguard, and as such got amalgamated into DX, and very, very quickly, you know, you get cemented. I had to defend this earlier today. Is Chyna's a hero of wrestling, and by that what I mean is Attitude Era is by and large seen as the most impactful, popular, successful period in wrestling. Other than The Rock and Austin, the other biggest thing going on in the Attitude Era was DX, and Chyna was a big part of that. Now, her relationships with the people in that faction notwithstanding, and trust me, that is not any dig at the NWO and the effect that they had in WCW, but again, I'm a WWE guy. It was an interesting anomaly because DX, as I was talking to somebody earlier today, DX were the quintessential rock stars of their era. Now, they would be the guys, if anybody, that would have a couple of Barbie dolls hanging off them, that would be going to the club and dragging home, you know, 10 bottle blondes and you know, having a good time and whatever. They skewed from that definition so far with this Chyna character, the Amazon, the ninth wonder of the world, all that sort of thing. This big, tough, or I don't say big in a disrespectful way, please don't mistake me what I'm saying, but this big, tough chick that you couldn't, she wasn't part of the women's division. She was one of the guys. She would, she kept up with the guys that, and those are some powerful names. Billy Gunn and Road Dogg individually maybe aren't big stars, but the New Age Outlaws were one of the most popular tag teams ever in their heyday. X-Pac, not so much. Triple H, we see where he's gone, and Shawn Michaels is one of those. It's enough said. type thing, but she kept up with them physically. She kept up with them on the mic. She kept up with them as far as subject matter. Like, if it was a serious moment, she'd get down and dirty with them. If it was a comical moment, she provided her own sort of comedy to add to their comedy, if that makes sense. There were 5 superstars on that team. There wasn't 4 superstars and a valet like you would have seen a lot in that era, like you would have seen in a bra and panties match, or an evening gown pillow fight, or something of that nature. Obviously, success in the women's division. Obviously, Chyna picking up the women's championship. I don't remember off the top of my head how many times she did it, but Chyna winning the WWE Women's Championship at the time was almost a given. They almost couldn't have not done it. So it's just, she wasn't. I mean, it wasn't the Divas division back then anyway, but if it was the Divas division back then, she wouldn't have been part of the Divas division, if that makes sense. What I want to talk about, honestly, and because it feels more right, is I want to talk about her accomplishments outside of the Women's Divas division, whatever. Excuse me. Now, I can't say she's the only woman to ever win a man's title, because I do believe that Jackie Moore, who just went into the Hall of Fame this year, was the Cruiserweight champion at one point. I don't remember whether this was before or after. You guys know I suck with timelines. But I do know, not only is Chyna the only woman to hold the Intercontinental Championship, she also got thrown into a very, very unique storytelling scenario where she co-held it with Chris Jericho. Now, the one problem with that was when they decided to figure out a singular champion, they threw Hardcore Holly into the mix for reasons, and basically destroyed that story. She was the first woman, and listen to what I'm saying very carefully, storyline wise, Chyna could have main evented WrestleMania, because Chyna made history as the first female to compete in the WWE Royal Rumble, setting a precedent for people like Awesome Kong, people like Natalia, I think, Beth Phoenix, etc. We see women these days, and I have to think, I don't know Chyna, obviously, but I have to think with the way she broke down barriers, she would be standing right beside Sasha Banks, right beside Charlotte, right beside Becky Lynch, Paige, Natalia, etc., in that mentality of a woman's going to main event WrestleMania one year. I'm not here right now to talk about whether that's going to happen or not, because realistically I don't think it will, but I think she would be at the head of that line. If you want to talk about women that can seriously get it done in the ring rather than Barbie dolls, talk about the Divas Revolution, you could in a lot of ways say that Chyna was the first women's division revolutionary. Very, very effective in the ring, very effective in DX, very effective after DX, when she had the brief run with when she sort of turned heel, went with the Authority and all that sort of thing when DX was kind of in a shambles, and then went on from there. You got to go into some of a little more lighthearted stuff that she was involved in at one point or another. When she branched out on her own, and part of her entrance was to come out with that the big fireworks cannon. Didn't always work. Kind of like Shawn Michaels with the confetti gun at WrestleMania. She had a lot of similar scenarios like that, but it was a really unique thing. And at the time, like, yeah, the lights go down a little lower, or the entire arena turns pink, or whatever, but not a lot of women had a lot of really cool shit put into their entrances at the time. Like, you see somebody now like Becky Lynch that's got the punk rock and the steam coming up out of the floor and all those little tweaks and things like that. People like Chyna saying, hey, women should have a unique entrance too. They should have a presence too. They should have a feel when they come out of the ring too. Little things, probably wouldn't even have thought about it at the time, but you think about it now, and it's that planted the seeds for some of the stuff we have now. The sexual / romantic angles that she pulled with Mark Henry and Eddie Guerrero were fun, and it was one of those, like, what you didn't know what was going to happen. You didn't care if it was cheesy, because it was just fun. The romantic angle with Chyna and Eddie Guerrero was one of those things where, yeah, it was cheesy, but you didn't care because you could tell the people that were doing it were having fun. I've seen a lot. You know, I don't come up to you guys pretending to be any kind of tough guy, any kind of macho guy, no pun intended. I saw a lot of people on Facebook and Twitter posting a lot of pictures of Eddie Guerrero handing Chyna roses, Eddie Guerrero, you know, kissing her on the turnbuckle or over the ropes or something like that, and you know, they all had very nice image or writing across the bottom. It's like, you know, don't worry, Chyna's on her way to heaven, Eddie's holding the door open for her, you know, welcome to paradise, mamacita, and all those sorts of things. And I don't care what it makes me sound like. It is enough to choke you up a little bit. And it's one of those things that just, I don't know if there's anything up there. I really don't, but it's one of those times where I really hope there is. I'm not a really churchy guy. I'm not a really religious or spiritual guy, as my friends know, as my family knows. I'm very, very skeptical about those things. But when I see stuff like that, and just, you think back and you look at Eddie Guerrero's another one that's just so many cool memories, and the idea that they could be, you know, in that quote unquote better place together, either having fun or at least keeping each other company or anything like that, is a pretty good idea, and it's one that I would love to hold on to a little bit if I could. The one thing that I will remember about Chyna matches, as I said, as funny as it sounds, I don't see Chyna as a women's wrestler. I see her as a wrestler. I saw her as being almost out of place in the women's division. But there was one thing I would remember from all her women's matches, is she had that look, and it wasn't cocky, like she wasn't mocking her opponent, but it was just like somebody little would come up to her. I think of like a Tori Wilson or a Stacy Keibler or somebody wiry like that. No offense to them, and they'd go and they'd take their one shot, and there would be that look on Chyna's face, like, really? Did you just do that? And then they'd get fucking destroyed. We're talking about, like, let's not forget either, we're talking about somebody in Chyna. We use the cliche all the time of, you know, the wrestlers that we like. Oh my God, they put their bodies on the line for us, they deserve ours. But we're talking about somebody that broke their neck for us, for our entertainment. So that's something to be considered as well. But you got to go to the other side of the coin. You got to go to where, you know, she was with Triple H and they had whatever they had, and Triple H sort of transitioned over to Stephanie, and that sort of turned into Chyna not being there anymore. And I'm not going to dwell a whole lot on the relationship between her and Triple H. I'm not going to dwell a whole lot on the relationship between her and X-Pac, because it's ugly, messy stuff, and it's out there. I don't want to pretend that it didn't happen, because it did, and all of it was horrible. And I just don't want to, because when somebody passes away, that's not the thing you want to think about, quite honestly. But we know that she left the company and left wrestling pretty much. She had a return stint in TNA that really, I was glad to see her again on TV, but I almost wasn't, because what they did with her in TNA was just shit, wasn't it? But she basically got snubbed by the company, and you know, connect the dots. It's a thing. It's a family company. You pissed off the family, you're out. It's worse than the mafia in a lot of ways. But they really did snub her. Like we all know. I've heard many interviews with lots of people, former wrestlers, former commentators, former referees, former ring staff, cameramen, and whatever, that even several years after they've left the company still calls them like once or twice a year. You know, how are you doing mentally? How are you doing physically? Is there any support we can give you? Whatever. From what I can tell, and I don't know things backstage, none of that was extended to Chyna, and that's a piece of shit. It really is. There's no other, like, I can't sugarcoat that. You guys know I defend the WWE a lot, because there are a lot of people a lot of times that jump on the company because it's the cool thing to do, and they come up with bullshit reasons to do it. This isn't the case. The company's shit. They put her in the shittiest situation possible, and they didn't leave her a lifeline. So there was a lot of shit. There was, you know, her life fell apart. She moved literally halfway around the world. There was a lot of drugs involved. There was the elephant in the room is the fact that she did porno. I'm of the position, like, I don't have any particular religious or spiritual or big moral qualms with somebody doing porn if they want to. You can disagree with me if you want to, but that doesn't make you any more or less of a person. It doesn't make you any more or less of a human being that deserves to be loved and cared for and treated humanely and have a happy life and pursue your successes and be acknowledged for your successes that you've already done and all that sort of thing. So it's a really bullshit reason to leave somebody out in the cold. But the company basically dropped her like a rock, which is really shit. It really, really is. But at a certain degree, if the company did decide to cut all ties with her, I could almost accept that because it's a business thing. I mean, it's a personal thing, but the WWE would say it's a business decision. They went their way, we went our way. Best of luck in your future endeavors and all that sort of thing. But if they didn't turn around and snub her the way that they did, the three examples that I can think of right off the top of my head, and these are just things that I've been thinking about today. There are more examples, obviously. Footage of basic, like, historical wrestling events that just have her completely edited out, and all that sort of thing. But when we got to Raw 1000, and one of the things that was advertised for Raw 1000 was we were going to completely reassemble DX. And as fans, we all said, yeah, but you're not going to have Chyna there. And she wasn't, and we weren't surprised at the time. But they really beat it over the head, like, this is, it's great to see all of DX back together. And it's like, fuck off, man. If you want to say, hey, look, it's nice to have DX back together, cool. But if you want to really drive it over the head and say, it's nice to see every single last one of them together and just pretend that she didn't exist. Now, let's be real for a second. Raw 1000 represents the entire history of Raw. A big portion of the history of Raw is the Monday Night Wars. The Monday Night Wars, basically the two factions you had going were DX and the NWO. And I'm not talking about DX when Shawn Michaels decided to come back to the company. I'm talking about DX, Triple H, X-Pac, the New Age Outlaws, and indeed Chyna. So if you want to talk about the history of Raw, the original DX didn't have Shawn, or the original DX was just Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and Chyna and the late Rick Rude, rest in peace. But after that, when the group actually expanded to the group that we saw as being competition for the NWO in a lot of ways, it was Triple H, X-Pac, the Road Dogg, Badass Billy Gunn, and Chyna. Shawn Michaels had left because of his back, and as I say, Ravishing Rick Rude had passed away. Not to be overlooked, Ravishing Rick Rude, obviously, as I say, rest in peace to him as well. But that was the DX. That was the DX army that declared that literally took the Monday Night War from a catchphrase to a literal frontline assault on WCW. In that green Jeep, when they had the funny helmets with the branches sticking out of them and Triple H on the microphone and all that. Who was sitting in the back of that Jeep? That was fucking Chyna. You're going to celebrate Raw, the 1000th episode of Raw. You're going to celebrate the people that made it what it was. You're going to celebrate the whole DX, and she wasn't there. So don't tell me it's the whole DX when it wasn't. Same thing goes when they revisited the Monday Night Wars at WrestleMania during the Triple H versus Sting match, which was booked all to hell and everybody doesn't like it. They say what they want to say about that match. I don't care at this point. You wanted to have the Triple H versus Sting was almost an afterthought. You wanted to have this cool moment where the NWO and DX stood face to face for the first time, when really it was, Triple H wanted to get all of his buddies in one ring, which is fine. But once again, you want to talk about the Monday Night War, you want to talk about the DX that went head to head with the NWO. It wasn't Shawn Michaels. It wasn't. And I'm sorry to say, because as I say, he passed away, but it wasn't the DX that had Rick Rude in it either. It was the DX that had one tag team, a mid-carder, a main eventer, and Chyna. And all of DX is here to rally against WCW. No, it's not all of DX. Because DX included Chyna, whether you like it or not. And you guys are being fucking scumbags. Nail in the coffin on this. And as I say, as much credit as I want to give Triple H most of the time, because I do. You can't overlook what he's done with the Young Talent Initiative, with the rebranding and the emergence of something like NXT, with the effect that emergence has had on the main roster, and the moves that we've made going forward with the women's division, the tag team division, all that sort of thing. I can't take any of that away from Triple H, but Triple H is still a fucking scumbag sometimes. And he's either a scumbag or his wife is pulling the strings fucking hard. When he went on Austin's podcast, and Austin, I don't know whether it's scripted or not. You know, a lot of people will look at me and say, you know, Spaz, like, what the fuck drugs are you on? Of course it's scripted. There's another part of me that wants to think that Austin asks the questions that he asks. I don't know, is the truth, and I don't care. But the question came up of, what about Chyna, and why is she in the Hall of Fame? Now, I understand Triple H is as a head, not the head, but a head of the company, has to be careful when he answers a question like that. Now, whether we like it or not, whether we want him to give us a straight answer, he has to be careful with a question like that. He could have dodged it. It's his and Vince's fucking network. He could have not answered if he wanted to. He could have declined to answer and then edited that entire question out of the show if they wanted to. But no, instead they basically dug up Chyna and raked her over the coals at a time where the porn thing was out of her way, the thing with X-Pac was out of her way, the drug stuff was out of her way. She had just recently done, and I don't know how I came across this, I think somebody sent it to me, she is really good friends, or was really good friends with Vince Russo, apparently. Now, I don't have very much time for Vince Russo at the best of times, but I did have a chance to sit down, listen to this. She got a lot of stuff off her chest. And, you know, the whole going forward, you know, I'm over here, whatever country she was, China or Japan or whatever the case may be, you know, I'm trying to make a better life for myself. I would like to, you know, come back for one more hurrah, even if it's just to say goodbye to the fans, all that sort of stuff. So she was in a really good resurging spot at that point, or like, you know, trying to turn, I'm not saying that she was without sin, but just that she was trying to pull herself out of all the crap. You know, life had really kicked her in the ass. Let's be real. That happens to the best of us. But she was really doing her best to get out of it. And she had said, you know, this is what happened. And this is why WWE's blackballed me. And I never got a chance to say goodbye to my fans. And I would really like to do that one day. And Roddy Rod, but I'm trying to make my life better. And so when somebody's trying that hard, the last thing you want to do as like this big TV personality with this gigantic platform is basically, and I don't want to say this like this because it sucks, but the blunt of Triple H's message was, we're never going to put her in the Hall of Fame because she's a whore. And she's a like porn star or a hooker or whatever you fucking wanted to say. Now, as I say, could have declined the question, could have just said, you know, hey, that ship has sailed, you know, our contact with Miss, whatever the hell her real name is, has been severed, and that's not an option at this time. Like, for all the times that we say WWE gives us a bullshit corporate answer, this is the time where a bullshit corporate answer would have been a lot classier than what he did. Hid behind the children like WWE usually does. Well, what happens if one of the children Googles Chyna one day and they find out that she was a porn star and she's in the Hall of Fame? And it's just like, and it's like a lot of other people have said, today, you know, in a lot of those pornos, the other participant was your buddy X-Pac, who's been involved in a lot of Hall of Fame, he's not in the Hall of Fame, but he's been in a lot of Hall of Fame scenarios. Anytime any one of them have gone into the Hall of Fame, there's a big Click DX, you know, photo op and whatever. Like I say, the DX reunions at Raw 1000 at WrestleMania, it's bullshit, and it's personal jabs in its truest form, which is shit. Oh, I'm not articulating myself very well at all, and I'm sorry for that, guys, because I'm just having a ramble. As far as, you know, a jaded fan would say, well, I bet they're gonna recognize her now that she's dead. I really want to say that it's just a jaded fan that would say that, but it's absolutely true. You go to WWE's YouTube channel today, and there's all kinds of glowing reviews. There's footage of the things that I've said here. The IC Championship, you know, co-holding it with Jericho. The one thing that I forgot to mention when I was talking about sort of the lighthearted memories was after she was done with DX and not really in a faction, the Cat was her protege and basically came out dressed like a mini Chyna. Now, was that kind of a shitty gimmick? Was that kind of like a, hey, Cat, we're going to make you Chyna 2.0, except you're going to be a mini? Was it the best thing in the world? No, but I will tell you it was fun, and that's a thing. But now you go on WWE's YouTube channel, all of a sudden all the content is unlocked. All of a sudden, you know, we see Chyna in the Royal Rumble. We see Chyna and Eddie Guerrero and their romance story that was a lot of fun. We see Chyna holding the IC title and fighting over it with Jericho. And not only did they wait till she was dead to release that, as somebody pointed out in another video that I just watched, WWE's got the fucking videos monetized. So, you know, we here in the YWC would shit on each other for that. And rightfully so. You get somebody like Deluxe Man or Preston or Ashton or In the Rope Show or anybody like that. They're probably doing a video on Chyna right now, and they've probably hit that, monetize the fuck out of this video. But no, a decent person won't do that. Not DX. WWE as a company is doing that. And by the way, fuck you for that. As far as recognition, as far as, you know, are they going to ring the 10 bells on Raw? Yeah, they're going to ring the 10 bells on Raw. I can almost guarantee it. I get SmackDown, the taping of SmackDown on a Wednesday here in Canada. I don't know. I'm taping this on Thursday night, the night that the Thursday night of the day that this was announced. So somebody tell me in the comment section below if you want to, if you think of it or whatever. Did they put an RIP Chyna graphic or anything before the tape of SmackDown? And obviously there's not going to be any live conversation about it because it's taped on Tuesday. That's fair enough. You can't really fault WWE for that. But for my American friends, I'm really curious. I'd really genuinely like to know if they stuck something in there. If they leave it till Monday Night Raw, that's fine, I guess. But again, it'll be that case. Oh, look how nice we are, and look how sympathetic and sentimental we are, and it's just shit. And it's the same thing with the Hall of Fame. Somebody, I've been hearing the common thought of all day. And sorry guys, I'm stammering because this fucking sucks. This is not the most animated video. I told you that at the beginning. So if you were expecting typical chipper, upbeat Spaz, that's not what you're getting tonight. They probably are going to put her in the Hall of Fame, and that's kind of bullshit. Doing a recognition thing on Raw, if they do any like a memorial, like a video package or anything like that, it's the same as the Hall of Fame. We've been saying forever that we want her to go into the Hall of Fame, want her to be recognized, want her to be just a part of WWE's history again, because she's been taken out. And if they don't do it, it's a crime. But if they do it, we know why. So WWE is in a no-lose or a no-win situation that they've created themselves. So at this point in time, I have no sympathy for them whatsoever. The sad part about it is, like I said, they monetize the videos now. So now it's like, not only is her footage okay now, but we'll make money on it now. If Chyna goes into the Hall of Fame, she'll be one of the drawing names of that Hall of Fame, especially if they put her in next year. It'll be like, oh, she only passed away, 8 months ago or whatever. They'll really tap into that sentimental, that mourning, that sympathetic tone of the fans. And if I could for a second believe that was genuine, I'd get really excited about the Hall of Fame. And it's really shitty that it kind of means that I don't want her to receive something that she has literally deserved for a long time. If you don't put her in the Hall of Fame, we're gonna shit on you. If you do put her in the Hall of Fame now, then we know why. I don't know. It's all kinds of shit. It really is. As I said before, I was reading up on various things, listening to a couple people's videos. I will say, I don't know about, I haven't checked OKFabe's channel yet. I'm pretty sure he's got something up about this. I checked out General Jerry's video on Chyna. It was really good, really nice, really well done. I already shared it on Twitter, so I really encourage you to go check that out. I know OKFabe's got a podcast episode out about Chyna that I haven't had a chance to listen to, but he's usually a really classy guy when it comes to stuff like this, so I encourage you to go check that out as well. The Taz show, like I said, I was listening to the Taz show podcast today, and he did a little, like, he opened up the show, dedicated the show to her, talked about her for a couple minutes, but he had a fan call into his show, and I think what this guy said would really sum up a lot of people's frustrations with the WWE, and that is, the guy basically called in and said, you gotta give people their flowers while they're still around to smell them. Like, fuck this bullshit of, okay, we'll wait till they're dead and then we'll recognize them. Because it's crap. I mean, if somebody genuinely, like, passes away of natural whatever, and it's just, hey, it's not somebody we got around to getting in yet, or they were, of age, or something like that. But if it's something like this where you know that she was intentionally snubbed, but you're going to go after the fact and recognize all her accomplishments now. I think what that guy said, I think the quote is great, and I'll say it again. WWE and the world in general, like, this is something that goes for the world in general as far as celebrities, but I think specifically it takes effect, and it's something that needs to happen in the WWE. You really do need to start giving people their flowers while they're alive to smell them. I think it's the most appropriate thing I've heard about something like this in a long time, to be quite frank. I would suggest for anybody that's interested, if you're not subscribed to the Taz Show podcast for whatever reason, if you're not a fan of his, I will say go back and watch this morning's episode. It was really nice, really classy, a little bit of retrospect, a couple of fans sharing their points of view and whatnot. But yeah, we lost another one in a year that seems to be just, we're losing people left and right, from the legends to the ECW originals to the Hall of Famers to the some of the building blocks of this business. And I don't care what you say, Chyna is one of those building blocks. But if there is something up there for us when we go to the next level, and if Chyna's up there listening to me, I would love the chance to say a genuine thank you, because she was a big part of the entertainment that I love to watch for a long time. And I said it on Twitter earlier today. Just Chyna, legend. Period. You don't need the Hall of Fame, because your fans know what you did for us. And the wrestlers like to say, if you hear them interviewed and whatnot, it's one of those, it's not goodbye, it's I'll see you down the road. So, metaphorically speaking, Chyna, I'll see you down the road.